Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Glow Up Guide podcast. So, today we are talking about tiny, ridiculously easy habits and tips that you can implement into your daily routine that save you so much time in the long run, or the short run, too. It is an episode on the shorter side, but it is still a good one, so short and sweet Wednesday. And you know it works because I'm a semi-drowning high school student, so you can trust me when I say these tips work because I need to squeeze out every last minute of every single day. Very reliable source. But before moving on, let's do one thing we're grateful for and one thing we're happy about, plus our book of the week. And actually, before we do that, let's do our podcast updates and life updates. So podcast updates recently hit 2,800 plays. So we're at like 2,860 something, I think, last time I checked. But very close to 3,000. So hopefully I hit that by the end of the month. I think I can do that. So make it happen. Keep listening. Follow, share, and share this podcast, leave reviews, rate it, engage. Really makes me so happy to see all of that from you guys and also achieve goals. Anyways, and then life updates. Let's see. Not much has been happening. I'm semi-drowning in school stuff and homework and track and that stuff. I had a meet last week. It was really, really hot. It was 90 something degrees outside the entire day. It was horrible. Kind of sucked, but it was fine. I made it out in one piece, and that's my accomplishment from then. Yeah. Okay, so one thing we're grateful for and one thing we're happy about, plus our book of the week. So starting with one thing I'm grateful for, the ability to learn and grow. I just think it's a big part of daily life, learning and growing. You learn and grow every single day. And something that semi-inspired this is the fact that as of today, actually, I'm starting to teach myself how to do SEO for the podcast, which sounds very fancy and advanced, but honestly, it's probably not even that fancy, but it is for me, so that's my accomplishment. Anyways, but yeah, I'm very grateful for the ability to grow and learn, and then one thing I'm happy about is that special elections for our area are happening this Tuesday, so we don't have school anymore, and I'm very happy about that, because then I can just stay home and, do whatever. Actually, I'm probably going to end up doing my homework the entire time anyways, but oh well, better at home than at school. And then our book of the week, do not have one, because guess who has no time for reading? Despite all these tiny tips to save a bunch of time that we're going to talk about today, I still have no time for reading, but that's not important. Okay, so let's move on with the actual episode, getting right into it with our first tiny time-saving habit, which is using a calendar or a planner to plan stuff out. Okay, so you hear this one everywhere, but we have to cover the slightly more obvious things first before we can move on to the other more unique-ish tips with a centralized focus. So using a calendar, very basic thing you hear all the time, whether that's from someplace else or from me on the podcast. I always talk about how I may have a slightly unhealthy reliance on Google Calendar, but I have never once forgotten about something that has been on there. I argue that my system works pretty well. But the reason, and the literal one singular reason I am able to do so many things in one day and not forget anything or mess up epically is because every little thing goes in my Google Calendar. No matter what it is, it goes in there. The only reason I am still sane and barely functioning as a semi-drowning high school student in a state of perpetual chaos and distress. What an amazing life I lead. But anyways, just use something that at least somewhat resembles a calendar though to plan things out and keep track of life's many events. Physical planners are kind of being abandoned these days in favor of digital tools. I used to be all for physical planners and bullet journaling and such until I realized how much work it really was and how difficult and messy it was to alter events I wrote down in there. Way too much of a hassle, especially now that I'm even busier than when I use physical planning methods. I am now all for digital tools. Significantly easier than a physical planner, but honestly it really just comes down to what you personally prefer, your time commitments, what works best for you in your daily life, because we are all different people with different preferences and lives, so different things work best for different people. But there are a crap ton of newer digital tools these days. Google Calendar, Notion, even the iPhone calendar. I prefer Google Calendar because it is so freaking easy to use and coordinate and such. Very simple, and that's why I like it. Simplicity always wins when it comes to productivity tools. A lot of people like Notion because of the many, many ways it can be used. I tried out Notion once and decided it was way too complicated and just too much for my liking. And some people love that you can put literally every possible thing you could ever need in it. And then some people hate it for that reason too. Personally, if you're a student like me, I would 1,000% say use Google Calendar because it fits the student lifestyle. Just experiment and see what works best for you and your own lifestyle, as long as you are using something to track everything and not just going crazy with a ton of mental notes that somehow get forgotten about, or post-it notes that go everywhere and frequently go missing. Just keep everything in one spot, track everything somewhere. It does not matter, just do that. My next tip is using lists. Use lists very aggressively. Again, another basic and really obvious one I talk about all the time as well, but it's a staple before we can get into the more unique things. I always talk about how I may or may not have a slightly unhealthy reliance on Google Calendar and Google Keep to keep track of everything, but that is my master combination. Google Calendar and Google Keep me somewhat alive as a struggling student. Google Keep is honestly so underrated. I don't know why more people don't use it. My friends always ask me what it is, and I'm like, it's literally just Google Keep. It is so easy to use. You already have it if you have a Google account, which is literally every single person, and namely every single student has these days. Extremely rare case if you don't have this. So use free tools to your advantage. By the way, Google Calendar and Google Keep are both free, which is another plus. Notion and a lot of the other fancier stuff can be great, but very limited free versions, so I don't recommend them for that reason as well. In Google Keep, it is really easy and simple to create an organized list. What I do is I create different labels. My current labels on Google Keep are school, personal, and my podcast, so then I assign colors to each label. I think my school one is light gray, personal is pink, and podcast is blue, and that's how I keep things organized. Plus, it looks really freaking cute, and I love it. If it's pretty to look at, you're more likely to look at it, and it makes boring things more fun. Romanticize your life, have a great time with it. Anyways, there are plenty of tools out there that allow you to do the same thing, but Google Keep is my personal, been tested every single day for the last 3 years recommendation because it is very simple to use and organize, completely free, and perfect if you want to spend less than a minute each day creating your to-do list and being done with it for the rest of the day. Also perfect for insanely busy people like me. You can also keep your physical to-do list if you want, and that's more your thing. I know my mom still does that because she just does. I don't know. Why not? That's probably most millennials, though. Physical lists work great. It really does not matter as long as your tasks are being tracked somehow. That isn't just little mental notes that conveniently get forgotten about. The third tiny but powerful life tip that will save you tons and tons of time is putting your phone in another room or an entirely different space when you are working. Phones are a huge, major distraction. So if you want to save hours and hours of your time, take just 30 seconds and go put your phone in the other room. It is such a small thing that takes almost no time, but it will almost always end up saving you hours. It is so incredibly easy to get distracted and just decide that doom scrolling Instagram for 3 hours is easier than writing that essay or studying or whatever it was that you needed to do. I have fallen victim to this distraction so many times and it really sucks. All you feel is guilt afterwards. So taking the time to go and put your phone in a completely different room can really help you decrease distractions and save so much time. If you are already struggling really hard to motivate yourself to do your work and the phone is just sitting right there, you are not going to do your work, especially if it's hard things you're trying to accomplish. You're just going to end up going on the phone and wasting a bunch of time, and then you accomplish absolutely nothing. Actually, you accomplish negative things. You get set back further than where you started. Unless you have insane willpower and discipline, you are not going to be able to resist the pull of the phone because your brain doesn't see it as wasting time when looking at the phone. It sees a mental escape from working, and that mental escape is very appealing in the moment. Also, reward system. Your phone is a dopamine bump. That is why it is so easy to get addicted to being on your phone. Because your brain likes dopamine, and you get dopamine from being on your phone. And that's essentially the cycle of addiction in a couple sentences. But case in point, it is way easier to go and doom scroll instead of just doing your work that needs to be done. It doesn't matter how urgent the work is, 9 times out of 10, the phone's going to win and you're going to lose time. Apparently, the average teenager spends about 7 hours a day on screens, and that doesn't even account for the time to do schoolwork. 7 hours out of a 24-hour day. That is insane. I did not know that until I searched it up for the sake of this episode. Not even schoolwork. That is absolutely bonkers to me. I can't be the only person that thinks that. So 7 hours out of a 24-hour day is actually about 29% of your life spent on screens. Yes, I did the math. I was in that much shock. That is insane. So that's 7 hours out of every single day that you could be spending studying, exercising, hanging out with your friends, learning a new skill, working on a hobby you love. literally anything that is not just pointless screen time. The recommended average is 2 hours per day outside of school stuff because school stuff can't really be controlled. Don't fall into those statistics, though. Be better than them. So go and put your phone in another room before starting any work and see how much easier it becomes to stay focused and not get into the doom scrolling song and dance. Tip number 4 that will save you bucket loads of time is the 2-minute rule. I love this rule with all my freaking heart and use it nearly every single day to motivate myself to get stuff done without putting it off. It's actually amazing and has motivated me countless times to get so many little things done, and before I know it, half of my to-do list of basic meaningless tasks is gone. So anyways, you might be asking, what is the 2-minute rule? The 2-minute rule is essentially where you determine if that a task takes less than 2 minutes, then you must do it immediately. No excuses, no procrastination, no, oh well, I'll just do it later, none of that crap. You pick your bum up and go do whatever the task is. The reasoning behind this is that most of the time, it takes way longer to organize and plan out everything and review a task than it takes to actually just get it done right away. Just do it type of stuff. Not more overthinking, just doing. It seems so small and stupid, right? But that's exactly the point. By making it sound so stupidly small and easy, you can't really tell yourself to not do it, or at least that's the goal here. Let's take an example a lot of us can relate to. Let's say you receive an email that requires a super simple, quick response you can definitely get done in under 2 minutes. Instead of marking it as unread to come back to later and then just never happens, take 2 minutes to write and send a quick reply, and then it's just done. This rule prevents those small tasks from piling up and becoming really overwhelming. Completing a task, no matter how small it may be, gives us this sense of accomplishment. This accomplished feeling can create more momentum that helps you tackle the larger tasks on your to-do list more effectively. But this rule doesn't mean that you should immediately drop a huge major task to complete a quick 2-minute one. It's more of a guideline to get yourself motivated when you're kind of stuck on deciding what to do next, or you find yourself with a free moment but don't have time to waste. As a student, there are probably lots of these kinds of tasks that come your way every single day. Whether that's responding to an email from a teacher, texting a friend for notes, or tidying up your desk, these kinds of tasks consume our to-do lists. But without completing these tiny tasks, the rest of our lives is just going to fall into mayhem. My room is in a state of constant disaster because as a student athlete with a 4.0, something has to be sacrificed. So the thing that has to be sacrificed is a clean room, but I spend forever and a half finding things in the morning and have about 2 minutes to eat and then leave so I don't miss my bus. Case in point, the 2-minute rule is very valuable for busy students because I know it certainly has been in my life. Moving on to number 5, which is planning your outfits the night before. If you're anything like me, I'm sure you spend like 20 minutes trying to find an outfit for the next day or even longer sometimes. I know that a lot of you guys can relate to this one. I take forever and ever to find an outfit, and I don't really have time for that in the mornings. There are better things I can spend my time on in the rushed mornings I have. So to eliminate this, start laying out your outfits the night before. Whenever I get the chance and actually flipping remember to do this, my mornings are so much more peaceful and a lot less rushed because I don't have to spend half an hour searching for the perfect outfit to wear that day. I also find it always takes me less time to find an outfit when I'm not insanely rushed and running late the night before. It takes like 5 or 10 minutes at the most to do so. Makes life so much easier. Speaking of which, take 10 to 15 minutes out of every night and do things like this to set yourself up for the next day. Make it a part of your night routine. Take the time to update all your to-do lists for the next day, plan out your outfit, pack up your bag, do whatever it is that you need to do to make your life a little bit easier the next day. I do this about once a month when I can find the time to breathe, and I can say that it works. Definitely something I want to try harder to actually implement in my daily life because I'm a very hustle bustle person. But give it a try for just one day and notice how much easier the next morning becomes. Next thing is setting up automatic reminders for recurring tasks or deadlines. This can literally save your butt as a student. Setting up these reminders and deadlines offloads the mental burden of remembering these tasks to a tool of your choice that is not your brain. It makes life so much easier too. This frees up your brain to do things that are actually hard and cognitively consuming instead of basic useless things like remembering random stuff. First thing though, you have to identify the recurring tasks or deadlines in your life. These could range from daily tasks such as studying a particular subject, weekly tasks such as submitting assignments, or monthly or yearly deadlines like renewing subscriptions and paying various fees. There are tons of digital tools that allow you to use reminders. Like I previously mentioned, Google Calendar and Google Keep are amazing for students because they are simple to use and 100% free. Google Keep has the function to create reminders with the notes or attach reminders to notes you make. Google Calendar is really easy to use to create recurring events in terms of deadlines. There are also things like Microsoft Outlook or even the Reminders app on your phone, although according to my mom, the Reminders app doesn't really work. I don't know about that. I think you can do the same with like the iPhone calendar app. You also have the freedom to specify the frequency and when you want to be reminded, which is really helpful. With a lot of these tools, you can add little notes or attach files or even add links to the reminders so that when the reminder pops up, you have everything you need to do so already, which saves more time and makes the task easier to do because you can't really say no, can you? Makes your life easier. Use reminders wisely like this essentially creates an external memory aid. It reduces stress, prevents you from simply forgetting tasks because they slipped your mind, and makes a huge improvement in your time management and overall productivity. Next one. Take 5 minutes out of every single day to clean up your space, even just a little tiny bit. It seems really simple and really easy, and that's because it is. The whole point of this episode is doing really tiny things to save tons of time. Like I said, I'm an insanely busy student athlete, and my GPA is a 4.0, but that doesn't happen without a couple of sacrifices. And one of those sacrifices is my room being clean. I barely clean it anymore, and my mom can't really bother me about it because there's literally no time for me to clean it. But I have noticed how this affects me. When my space is a mess, it's a lot harder to focus on doing meaningful work because it's too distracting with all the piles of stuff everywhere. I can't really flop on my beanbag when I come home from school anymore because there's piles of stuff all over it, and that makes me really sad because I love that beanbag. I can never ever find anything in the morning, and that's a pain because normally I'm packing my stuff with less than 5 minutes until I have to leave the house. So not very fun. I'm sort of working on keeping my room cleaner because it just makes life easier. Just yesterday, I cleaned up my closet and suddenly realized that all my running shorts were not missing, but buried under a mountain of clothes. There are clothes from the past 3 loads of laundry there. It's a mess. Well, I mean, it was a mess until I finally freaking cleaned it up. Anyways, every single one of you out there listening to this episode can take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes out of their busy day to clean their space a little. It doesn't even have to be every day. Sometimes 5 minutes 3 or 4 times a week is all you really need. You will be surprised by how much your daily life improves when your space is clean. After all, a clean space equals a clean mind. So this next one is one that you might not have heard all that often, or maybe you have, I don't know, but teaching yourself to speed read and kind of get the gist of information quickly. I have to read a crap ton of things every single day, and knowing how to speed read really saves me. For our book club project in English, we have to read about 7 chapters a week, so about 70 pages. I can read that in about 30 minutes or less sometimes, especially if I'm just like skimming the most important parts. So speed reading is really helpful to have under your belt as a student. So apparently there's actually a word for this when you kind of like mentally say the words in your head as you read, and that word is subvocalization. When you do this whole subvocalization thing, you limit your reading speed to your talking speed, which slows you down a massive amount because you can't read any faster than you talk. But you want to try your best to reduce this habit. It can be hard. It is going to be really hard, but it gets easier in practice. One good technique is to count to 3 repeatedly as you read. The goal with speed reading is not deep understanding of everything, but to get the very basic gist of things and be done quickly. Another thing you can do, and something I actually do without realizing much, is using your finger as a pointer when you read stuff. This helps guide your eyes while reading and keeps them moving along the page instead of wandering or getting distracted or falling asleep in some cases. Obviously, you have to keep practicing this. Speed reading is a skill that needs to be practiced, but it is so worth it once you master it. You don't want to use speed reading when you have to actually get a deep understanding of the content, though. Speed reading gives you a general gist of what's going on, and it kind of stops there. But when you do actually need to understand stuff deeply, take time to really read things, understand things, reread things aggressively, take notes, do that whole process. But speed reading helps you automate the more basic reading things in your life. Even learning to read just a little bit faster can really save you tons and tons of time that can be spent on more valuable things. Okay, so I lost count, but the next tip is creating master templates for stuff. I always find that I have certain formats for certain things. English assignments have to be done with a certain format. History like this. Whenever I create clips for the podcast Instagram, I make a copy of the very first clip on Canva. That thing I did, which took me 2 hours. Next clip I made took about 50 minutes. Probably going to go way down to 20 to 30 minutes as I get better at this content creation thing. But if there's certain formats for assignments and those things that you always come back to, keep master templates and just keep making copies each time you need to. It saves so much time instead of having to reformat everything. Last summer, I had to take a math course over the summer, so it was really important to format all my assignments correctly to make sure my teacher could actually understand everything easily. Formatting took longer than completing the actual math. So I created some master copies and I made new copies each time I needed them, and that saved me so much time. Hours. A good one is email templates. You can create some basic email templates and save them in a Google Doc. It makes life so much easier with repetitive communication. Identify the types of emails or messages you send a lot and then make those master copies. It's really easy to do, but it genuinely saves you so much time. Make these master templates comprehensive yet flexible so they can be easily customized for specific situations without being super time consuming to customize it. Create a folder in your files or Google Drive or whatever can help you find them really easily when you need them. It keeps things organized too. Customizing a master template takes so much less time than creating something from scratch, and you want to make sure to update and review your templates as needed. Your communication needs will likely change over time. Updating these templates ensures they remain useful. Keep all your passwords in one place. This should have been one of the first freaking things I said, because finding passwords and keeping track of them takes so freaking long. It's insane. And then when you forget them, it's a whole freaking process just to reset the password, and sometimes it doesn't even work. In my case, I have about 3 different passwords I use regularly, so it's kind of hard to forget them, but that's not really the best way to go because of digital safety reasons, so don't do that. I don't recommend it. Instead, just keep track of all your passwords somewhere. Google Password Manager is great, or you can use another password manager tool. Plus, it can make stronger passwords for you, so your digital security will be better than mine with my 3 repeat passwords. Digital security is very important as a student because there is a lot to lose if you get hacked or some crap like that. With the password manager, you don't have to go through that whole forget password resetting process every time. That alone can save you tons and tons of time if you have accounts on many platforms. Autofilling login info can also save time. Most password managers have an autofill feature or just save password thing. When you visit a website or app, the password manager can automatically fill in all your info, which makes life so much easier and saves time. Also, most password manager systems sync across all devices that you are logged into with the same account. So whether you're on your phone, tablet, or computer, you can quickly and easily access all your passwords. Always remember that while a password manager can save you so much time and improve security, you should always use a trusted provider and protect your master password so you don't end up doing the opposite thing instead. So that was all I had to say for this episode. It was kind of a shorter one, but I still hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that at least one of these tips helps you in your daily life. To end off this episode today, I have a quote from Robert Collier. I hope I'm saying his name right. And it goes, "Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out." Bye, guys. Rate, review, follow, and share this podcast. Please, please, please go follow me on Instagram at the Glow Up Guide Podcast. Drink some water, and I love you all.